I'm going to talk about the rushing pattern. And this is a pattern that I know really well because it's one that I've had to learn to observe and manage in my own life. So I'm using a client who I've worked with very closely to explain this pattern. And they're a very driven high achiever and extremely entrepreneurial. They've got multi-businesses and their ideas are smart. So, they're very, what would you call it? They're out living life large, lots of ideas, lots of projects. They invest as well as run businesses and they take a lot on. And that's quite natural for them. They love challenge. So this particular person with the rushing pattern loves challenge. Boredom would be something that he would just go to. And so his whole life he's had this, what we consider this entrepreneurial way of being with this rushing pattern. Now, the great aspects of this particular person is, he takes a lot on. And he is in his purpose for the most part, because that's who he is. He's like a Richard Branson. Richard Branson is in his purpose, building businesses, multi-businesses. That's who he is, heart and soul of an entrepreneur. The problem for this particular gentleman, and it's manifested pretty badly in his businesses, the problem, his blind spot, is he has an underlying emotional disposition. And this is important because if you've got an underlying emotional disposition, it can drive behaviors that don't support effective business building. And his underlying emotional disposition was frustration. He constantly experienced a sense of frustration, which anyone with the rushing pattern does. So why do they experience that? Well, because they've got so much going on, they're trying to control so much, and they're incredibly high achievers. So here they are, we've got to get this, we've got to get this, we've got to get to the moon, and then we've got to get to Mars, and then we've got to get to Venus. Big goals. And things aren't happening fast enough for him. So this frustration drives him to be like a border gate. And he backs his ideas too quickly. So just quickly, and I'll come back to you and ask you more, but have either of you experienced that personally?
I've worked with a client. I've definitely worked with a client who's had that pattern.
Yep, and they just rush and rush. Now, what happens when someone has an underlying motivation of frustration and they're rushing? What will that do to detailed analysis?
Goes right out the window, Perry. They're so focused on, as you said, they're high achievers. So they're so focused on ticking the box and getting as many boxes ticked as having completed something as possible. So in that rush to get that box ticked, they miss out on details. Oftentimes they overspend money because, they didn't think about that. Or, in their rushing, they left their laptop, on the plane and sorry, someone's picked it up kind of thing. So it can impact them on many different levels of their life. But the rushing pattern definitely is impacted by a lack of detail and a lack of focus.
Correct. And one of the things that I saw with this particular gentleman is he had no attention to SWOT analysis. So he would get an idea, and as I said, his ideas were generally good ideas, but we know the details prove an idea, or certainly help risk minimize an idea. That could be in budget, that could be in doing the numbers on a business and really analyzing those numbers. And those things went out the door. He would take a cursory glance at it or take a stab at it. Now, what's interesting as we talk, I can see that this person is actually the complete opposite to the fearful perfectionist pattern. So the rushing pattern is the opposite of the fearful perfectionist pattern that you talked about, Georgina.
Yep.
So now this is really important. Again, this was in his blind spot, meaning he did not really understand that he was weak when it came to SWOT analysis, that he had not developed enough patience to research. And of course, when we come back to that fearful perfectionist, the fearful perfectionist spends all their time researching, making sure all the details are in place and they've got all the right information because they're so risk averse. So you can kind of see from a work-on perspective, the way out for this particular gentleman with the rushing pattern, or anyone with the rushing pattern, is to develop some of the traits of the fearful perfectionist, or bring someone into the business with those traits, and no decision should be made with anyone with the rushing pattern until someone with the fearful perfectionist pattern has said, yes, I've done all the research, your idea's backed up and it's supported by these figures, these numbers, these details, this clause, etc., etc., etc. Throw it over to you two. Gab, have you had any experience with this pattern and any insight to it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of the time that I see that with the rushing pattern, it's all about, like you said, that real rush in the decision-making process, and they can't handle anything that's slow. So a lot of time they make a lot of mess in the business as well. They'll make a lot of quick decisions and then a mess for a lot of their staff to clean up. So it can be really frustrating, and really, if you've got staff, it really makes low morale because they think, oh God, my boss, is constantly making decisions and we've constantly got this mess to clean up. And not only is the boss frustrated, but so are the staff as well, because they can't handle anything that is slow going. And a lot of decisions that I've been, prior to clients coming to us, they make their decisions so quickly that there's just no thought in it. And it takes a lot longer time to clean the mess up than it does for them to actually make the decision.
Yeah, totally agree. Georgina, I've got something else I want to add, but anything else you have to add to this, Georgina, to the rushing?
No, I think I think you both have covered it, and the bit that I mentioned earlier. So finish off, Barry.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about myself with this because I know this pattern really, really well. And I just observe that what I have to do is, because if we look at business, and if you've got the rushing pattern, the rushing pattern typically belongs to people that love challenge and they want to be in challenge a lot. So I would also say that type of person, me included, I could even look at the sports I'm involved with and what I've been involved with in my life. You're looking for an edge. There's something in you that likes to be a bit edgy and likes the challenge and doesn't like the mundane and likes the thrill of things. But the truth is that when you're in certain phases of business building is extremely slow and methodical. It is a slow and methodical process, especially when you're developing systems and building a business that can give you a good lifestyle or a decent business that you can sell. It is a slow, methodical process, has to be carefully worked out and thought through. So what I observe in myself is, because I do understand this pattern really, really well, I've got to constantly just note whether I'm rushing or being patient. Just doing that means that I'm aware of my blind. It's no longer my blind spot because it's been brought into my awareness. I know the how I'll get punished if I don't. And what I mean punished is feedback from life. I'll be inaccurate in my decision making, etc., etc. So I've learned those lessons. So again, just noting, am I rushing or am I being patient? And the other one that I use is I just go, okay, I can feel the part of me that's rushing. I need to ask my general and my accountant, and the general, that's my term for the part of me that is hugely strategic and can be patient, and my accountant, the part of me that can look at resource requirements, look at the figures. So I make that shift from the moment I observe the rushing to asking these parts whether that is appropriate, if these decisions are appropriate. It's also good I surround myself with people that keep me accountable to key data. That's another thing if you've got that pattern. So I speak personally. Have someone that keeps looking at your data. I've got 2 people that look at the data and inform me about the data. The data tells me everything. That stops me rushing. Perry, that's and probably not a good decision because of this, this, and this, and this. Okay, that's accountability to our blind spots and patterns. That's it. Rushing pattern done.